Welcome. You are at the CCC,
where there are no outside issues with Bonnie Violet
and Lulu.
Each week, we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to inspire better spaces for more people in recovery
by tackling topics used to separate us.
But before we do that, please like, comment, share this episode, download, do whatever you do to find your podcast.
Share. Do it.
Exactly.
Tell all your friends.
I know. How are you doing today? Actually, before I even ask you, that intro music, don't you feel like you're,
I know, right?
Like this is a talk radio and we're getting ready to get into it deep.
Get into it. Nothing too serious, but kind of a nice vibe.
Exactly. Yeah. So how was your week, huh?
It was good. It's been fairly good. I actually celebrated 13 years of
I know. Congratulations.
Yesterday.
I saw that. I was going to say something. I'm all right now. Yeah, that's amazing.
We sound effects.
I know. Exactly.
How fun.
How do you feel? Do you my mom used to always ask on my belly button birthday, it's like, how do you feel? How do you feel?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you experience this, but I tend to get sometimes a little emotional, like up until like an anniversary, with a lot of different things. And so I think I felt a little like moody on Sunday, but as far as like, I don't know, it just kind of felt like another year. I hope that's okay. Like it didn't feel as much of like a production as some of my other like anniversaries, kind of like, oh, that happened. That's really cool. And it feels like I've been sober a lot longer.
Yeah.
I'm like only 13 years.
I think what's interesting for us is like when you do the work and you get the time or whatever, other people see the change in you before you even are able to acknowledge it. Cause like all of a sudden now I have a calmness that I didn't have before.
Right.
Like I was just a complete like basket case wreck.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. It's like a former tweaker. It's like I couldn't sit still.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like lifetimes ago. Like, do you feel that way too? I know we're right around the same amount of time. Do you feel like it's like a completely different lifetime?
It is. And what's even worse is when you look at pictures and I'm like, and I thought I was fat then.
You're like, who is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, God. Yeah, no, my week was pretty good. Like, obviously, again, like, I'm starting to call Tuesdays training Tuesdays because I meet with the trainer. Nice. And today was like intense. Mm-hmm. Like, and it wasn't intense, but it was, I guess, intense for me. Right. I'm not going to judge what I'm doing. It's like, there's a lot of work. I did some stretching and I'm learning how to kind of move around.
Nice.
And that's really what I wanted to do. The other thing is like laundry, and it's such a beautiful day in the city. So it's like, I have been trying to I wake up every day at 7:00.
Wow.
Or 6:00, 6 or 7 o'clock. And I was telling my sponsor the difference between me waking up and actually like getting out of bed. Because sometimes I wake up and I just stare at the ceiling or whatever. But so, yeah, it's been a good week. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It sounds like you're getting deeper into your practice.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting deeper into my practice.
Deeper into your practice. Do you usually feel sore by that night or the next day?
You know what? I haven't gotten to the place sore. I think that I have the benefit, like I'm stretching. I'm learning how to kind of move properly. And I think that when I start doing other work where I'm really kind of working the muscles, then we'll talk about it. But right now, and actually that day, I'm going to be moving my training days to like Friday. So or I'll tell you about it the following week.
Right. TGI Friday, huh?
Yeah. So we have our topic today. If you are just tuning in, we didn't say it. We're going to be talking about like recovery during times of COVID.
Yeah.
And well, hello. Yeah. So recovery during times of COVID, and I think we've been through it. It's like, it's only been a year, but it seems like it's been longer. Like you were saying, it seems like it's been a lot longer. And
it felt so surreal. Like a year ago when it started happening, it was feeling like not real, but it was happening. And then it's kind of feeling that way now with the idea of getting out of like,
exactly.
It feels a little surreal still again.
Well, I was thinking that this was a conversation that was like, a year and the making.
Right.
We needed to go through it in order to have this conversation.
You have to be on the other side of the.
Well, I flash back to like, it was a Sunday night meeting and we're hanging out, and just before they made the announcement about sheltering in place. And so those of us that were at the meeting, because a lot of people didn't come, those that were at the meeting were like, yeah, we're going to stay in these meetings as long as we can. so that people can find us. And then I made the announcement that says, no, you aren't.
No, I'm not going to do that. I feel like I was doing RuPaul viewing parties here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I had to cancel. I don't know. I think there was like, we were right into that. Should we cancel tonight or should we not? I don't even remember what we ended up doing, but then it was like, yeah, because it was like March. I feel like it was like March 12th or 13th.
Yeah.
Everything kind of.
So what do you think? And this is a question for the audience as well, for anybody watching. What would you say is your the biggest thing that has changed for you as a result of like shelter in place and the pandemic? You know, for you, what do you feel like was a big shift? You know?
Yeah, I mean, for me, especially in the beginning, it felt so like just like boom, you know. And so like I remember thinking about like, what if I got sick? As a person, I have HIV, and then I also don't have a spleen, so I don't know how the virus would respond if I got it. And so I had a little bit of fear of that, but I actually had more fear of my parents getting sick and dying. And because we have like some unresolved like kind of issues, I guess, that I was kind of like, I felt really pressured to try to like fix that, you know, because like what if something happened? Like the thought of death just became really up close and personal, and everything felt a lot more important. And like, I don't know, it just felt so significant. Everything was just so significant.
Absolutely. Like, so I worked all throughout the pandemic because the job that I have was considered essential. And interesting. Well, at the beginning, when they first announced it, I had some vacation time that was coming up, and I decided to keep it. And so I had all this time off, and so I didn't have to think about like what it would be like to leave the house. And so I did that. Everything was fine. But I remember the very first day that I went out, I'm all thinking, oh my God, are they going to stop me on the street? What's going on? It's like, is the bus going to be running? Am I going to make it? And what was super cool is that, you know, actually it was great. There was nobody on the streets and nobody on the buses. And I felt like, and I didn't have to pay for the bus for like a year.
Right. But it was kind of a little eerie, huh? Like
it was extremely eerie, and it was uncomfortable. Like at work, we were in various stages of our understanding of it, and one of the things I think we kind of talked about before earlier, like the problem with it was we were not getting correct information. We were getting all this misinformation. Some of it was deliberate, and some of it was just because people didn't know.
Right.
And so I think that from day to day, it was just, there was so much uncertainty because I'm a type, I like to know what's around the corner, you know? I think it's helpful.
Yeah, it was definitely like a day-to-day kind of thing where you just didn't know what was gonna come next, what we were gonna learn about like transmission and those sorts of things. Like me and my roommates, like we sheltered in place the whole time. Like we all lived together, but we never were in the same room at the same time. And then like we were like washing our groceries, you know, scrubbing our groceries with sandy wipes and doing all that. Were you doing that for a while?
You know what? I didn't do that, but I did have a roommate that like my roommate did what ended up being furloughed, and so was at home all the time. And a lot of the decisions that I made were about not impacting my roommate. Like,
yeah.
I think that maybe I was a little more relaxed for myself, but because I was living with someone else, I was more concerned about, oh my God, I don't want to get sick and bring it home, because I always talk about this idea of roommate trauma. I love my former roommate, but you know, we were put in a situation where we had to kind of we knew each other for a really long time, but you know, you really don't know each other until you're like in close quarters, and only so we were limited on a lot of things, and presented a lot of challenges. I mean, it's like that's a whole nother show,
right?
So yeah, as far as recovery and COVID times, what was really amazing is like, so as soon as we weren't able to have meetings and we're speaking, it's important to note for anybody listening, I'll speak for myself and about Vonnie.
Yeah.
We are not ambassadors for 12-step, but it just so happens it's what's worked for me. And so this is the perspective that I get to speak in. because I know my experience. So as soon as the meeting shut down, it seems as though and I don't think it's just exclusive to like 12-step. It's anybody in recovery, anybody going through whatever. If it's something is important enough to you, we're adaptable.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden it's like we shifted, and folks rallied and started groups online. And
yeah, it
no,
seemed like there wasn't didn't even skip a beat.
not at all. And then all of a sudden you have all of these, like, I didn't know that Zoom existed before. Apparently,
me either. I've heard some stories.
I know.
Though.
Apparently, folks were using Zoom for other stuff. I'm
that.
like, seriously? It's like I'd like to see you in person and touch you that way. Yeah, but folks dove in, like they had Zoom, and then the other one, there was another that we were using initially. I can't think of it.
I don't recall.
Yeah, no, exactly, because Zoom became like the important, the important thing. And initially, I don't know about you, but initially, like every time I would sign on, I'd freak out. Like I'd be a little uncomfortable. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna. And really, like what I know about it now is like I sign in. Nobody knows that I'm signing in. Well, they know, but I sign in and I don't have to participate, do anything. I can just like listen and what have you. But
I was really surprised at how quickly that happened, and it took me a while to get acclimated. Eventually, I really felt like it was important, like for me to be in a meeting, and really get it. For whatever reason, I really had to like turn on my camera and try not to get distracted by anything, and not just kind of have it in the background, which I know works a lot, which is interesting because I listen to like a lot of podcasts and things like that. But
exactly,
for whatever reason, it felt like I really needed to make extra effort to be present, even though it was nice. Like I'm at home. I'm maybe like not dressed in the way that I would normally dress to, a meeting or that sort of thing. So
exactly. Well, and one of the things, I mean, I guess compassion was called for because there were a lot of folks who were already kind of at home constantly on Zoom. And I happen to like the meetings. And so it was not a problem. Like I had done something I hadn't done in since early recovery, and that's go to a meeting every day and sometimes more. And there were folks who just were not feeling it. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand. But
yeah, I took a moment. I felt like it was probably about 3 months in where it felt like things were going to be going for a while. Right. And I was like, this is a really great opportunity for me to create new habits that, I've always loved morning meetings, but I've always had a hard time getting up in the morning for morning meetings. And so it was helpful to be able to wake up at 7 a.m. and just be in a meeting rather than having to like get dressed and shower and go.
Absolutely. Because you just make sure that the picture that shows it's really good and sign in. And because I don't know, a meeting with pants on.
Yeah, I always had my pants, or shorts on at least, or something. Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
And so I think the thing that was missing, obviously, was the fellowship part of it. And I think a few groups tried to do like, sign on early and sign on after for fellowship. What I really appreciated was the variety of meetings that I could go to, because I participated in a meeting that, a lot of my friends all throughout California are on daily. Right. And so instead of it just being a one-time thing where I see them at conferences or whatever, we get to see each other every day and kind of check in. And it was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that was nice too, is like, you could also connect with a more variety of people from all across the country. So like I was able to there's like tons of trans meetings, that are like, because it's like, I don't know, virtual, you can pretty much find a trans meeting almost, you can every day, right? Maybe even multiple times a day. And same with like BIPOC meetings. And, there were just such a variety of different places you could pop into and then just start to have a little bit, at least, of a different experience with things,
So, how we were talking about, like with this creating better spaces or brave spaces, how was it like initially for you? Like, I know you're saying finding trans meetings. I would think that, for me, I'll just speak for myself. It's like initially going in, I wasn't exactly sure that this was going to be a safe thing. And this is why I really like this idea of brave spaces, because nothing, even like the live meetings, are really safe. You kind of have to kind of make a decision to kind of put yourself out there in a way that is going to help you, that is going to be conducive to you like growing and learn.
I don't remember being too challenged by it, like by it on its own. I think just in general, just the isolation from everything, like not just at meetings, but also just like I was working from home. I was doing everything from home. And so I think it was more of the isolation that was challenging, and the Zoom kind of helped it, but not. So I don't know that Zoom, I mean, I eventually, like now I have a really hard time going to meetings on Zoom. I just feel like I'm like fatigued for whatever reason.
Zoomed out, a zoom.
Right. Yeah.
So like, okay. So, I talked about the first time that I went out after that little break, and I had, I guess it was cool that I had the job going because I had I had connection with the people that I was working with. Obviously, it was a ghost town. The streets were empty.
Right.
But how was it for you that first time you needed to go out, or did you go out to buy groceries or things like that occasionally?
I really didn't, actually, like before shelter in place, I always ate out. I never bought groceries and cooked at home. And so I started getting groceries delivered and I started cooking at home. So that was kind of a nice new practice. It saved money. Plus it just kind of felt nice to take care of yourself in that way. So it was a long time before like I kind of went out, and I remember we got to a point where like we could kind of maybe go into work, but they weren't wanting us to go into work yet. And I was like, can I please just go into work? Cause I just want to get like out of my house. Like, and so for me, by the time it was time to go out, I was like super eager just to kind of get out in the world. But yeah, it did feel a little challenging.
Yeah, no, I think that it took me a really long time. Like I thought that because I was going out every day or whatever, that I was going to be able to acclimate to this a little easier. But really, I was just moving from one inside situation to another because I didn't even leave my job like for breaks.
Right.
Actually, what was really nice and really fortunate is they for the first few months they would buy us lunch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because they were trying to support businesses in the area, and it was just really kind of just a depressing time.
Right.
I mean, because it's like what we thought was going to be like maybe a couple weeks, because I was like, I can do this a couple weeks.
Right.
Kept going. Oh my God, do you remember that day that we woke up and the sky was yellow,
yellow,
or orange?
Oh my gosh, that was gorgeous.
Okay, it's like it was bad enough
scary.
that we had to wear the mask, but the fires and everything, and I was thinking, this is the end of days.
Totally, it was so eerie, but so cool too. Like,
yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's like it was. Things were already surreal enough, so it's like I'm all. What more? I was thinking. My friend Franklin was like, Godzilla is going to be downtown.
Right. Well, and so the Lewis agenda that started in shelter in place, right? Like had you been going live?
Yeah, you know what? I went live more. Shelter in place. I stopped. The Lewis agenda was something like it's been quite a few years.
Right.
Because I go back and I see like, and I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't realize that, because every now and then I would pop in and say, this is what's going on. But I had more time. The other thing, you were talking about cooking more. I mean, this is what I got from all of a sudden. It's like, I talked about this idea of my home being sanctuary, but it became sanctuary.
Right.
Even with the challenges that I had with a roommate, not always seeing eye to eye with a roommate. In the beginning, I was like, I'm determined not to gain any weight, which I lost that battle. But I was cooking, like I was watching Tabitha Brown, and I was making more vegan options and things like that. And I was sharing pictures, and I was really kind of enjoying that time. And I was drinking my Earl Grey tea because I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped drinking coffee, not because the caffeine, because there's obviously caffeine in tea, but I was putting too much cream and sugar. I don't know what happened. I think I started supporting restaurants by ordering DoorDash.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like, I don't even want to see like the complete bills. You spend a lot of money on DoorDash?
No, the biggest thing I did was just getting my groceries delivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an essential,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the only thing that was different. And yeah, I didn't feel comfortable going to the store for whatever reason. I was just like, I had never made that part of my routine anyway. So it was already like a big change. So like being able to get it delivered was really helpful. I had mixed feelings about it because people have like, then that means somebody is going to the store and doing the shopping. So somebody else is kind of, putting themselves at risk, which kind of felt, just kind of, it was like an interesting dynamic, I guess, to be in.
Absolutely. And so the folks that you normally spend time with in recovery, were you finding ways to communicate with them?
Yeah. I mean, there were like a handful of folks that we would still get together, and we'd sit like at the park, like 6 feet away from each other.
Do you feel guilty? Because I remember having those experiences where I'm all, we're doing something bad.
I mean, I don't know that I felt that way, but it was definitely limited. And it was only like a very small amount of people that I would do that with. And that became really necessary too in time. I think the thing that was really interesting, and we're talking about like connection, is like, and I think we've talked about this, but like my sex life changed drastically, like drastically.
Oh,
prior.
I put it on the shelf. I had a funeral for it.
Yeah, and that was fun. It was actually fine for a while.
I freaked in the beginning because I was going to share. I have a confession.
Oh.
So the weekend before they announced shelter in place, they were telling us like it's probably not wise, but I decided. I went to one of those clubs across the bay.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to say the name; it's not important.
Right.
But anyway, I went to those clubs, and I had a good time, and I think I kind of celebrated the end of it. But you know what? Like you said, I have surprised myself because I have been able to kind of exist without freaking out and thinking, oh God, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had been like, my sex life had pretty much just been like going to the sex club,
Yeah.
On the weekend, most every other weekend or so. And that was just kind of like the energy that
just every other weekend. I was like, on the weekends on Tuesday.
No, it wasn't quite like that. It was like maybe just on the weekend.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely a little bit different. And for a while, there was just no sort of connection in that way. And actually, I had met somebody on one of the apps, and we had actually talked about mainly just being sexual, but we weren't able to be sexual. And so we really kind of got to know each other in this really cool way. And so I was kind of dating somebody that I had never actually met. And it was actually really kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I think this is what sheltering in place, what the pandemic, and especially before we like had any kind of like information about like how it's transmitted or whatever, you had to get creative about how you got your intimacy,
right? If at all,
if at all, exactly. And like I said, I was living with a roommate.
Oh.
Yeah, I was living with a roommate, and we would have moments where we wouldn't chat for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like relied on all of the TV shows that came on at the time. Netflix. I mean, thank God for the shows, but after a while, all that stuff got boring.
Right. Well, because everything is so virtual, it's like everything you're doing is on the screen. Mm-hmm. So it's like if your meeting's on screen, your work wasn't on screen, but mine was on screen. And then like watching movies or like whatever, it could get to be a lot.
Oh my God. At times I wish that I could have done my job remotely.
It had its pluses and minuses, for sure. Like it was nice. I don't know. It was kind of nice, but yeah, it was just.
So something big that happened throughout that was all this social unrest. I mean, how did that affect, like, for me, like it definitely affected like my recovery, my self-esteem, all of those things, because like more than ever, like there's been those situations where with police brutality, all of those things, all of that political unrest before, but there was something different about this. Mm-hmm. There was a shift, and it changed. It kind of changed the core, because I remember I was the type of person where I could laugh off certain microaggressions and things of that nature. And, I was irreverent, and that's what that was my claim. It's like, I'm completely irreverent and whatever. And I don't take this seriously, and you can talk about anything around me, and I'm not too sensitive. And this was something where all of a sudden it's like, okay, it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, I possibly had been kind of making excuses for shitty behavior
Yeah.
and not understanding how it was making me feel. That even though I thought I was not being affected by it, it was affecting me.
Right.
And it can't, and me, like with a whole bunch of people, it came to head. And I'm so grateful that I was in recovery, because I was able to I was in a place, and it's taken a while to do the work to understand that, okay, you need to get honest.
Right.
You need to say, this is what's going on, and I'm not comfortable and I'm not feeling right. And it has been a process. I mean, I think I've tapered off. I mean, I'm a lot less angry. Still angry. I'm always angry. I'm mad. Even when I'm smiling, I'm pissed off.
I don't see you as an angry person.
Well, not angry in a sense, like, I think that some people can be angry and channel that anger in a way to where they're productive.
Understood.
But I think that there's definitely that anger
It's there.
that underlying, that's like, why, that nonsense. So anyway, I've just been yapping away. It's like,
no, it's good. I mean, that reminds me, I think the first time I ever really came out was when, like, to do a march, and I think that was the thing that was so interesting. It's like, it wasn't willing enough to go out, like, for groceries or like whatever, but I'll go out to a march with like thousands of people. But it felt worth it. You know what I mean? So there was like a lot of, like, I went to a couple of marches, and I went to like a trans pride event, which was really kind of great. And so I think I came to understand, like, I thought I was pretty aware, of like racial issues and things like that. And I definitely came to like another level for me that was really kind of interesting. And I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to respond. I wanted my friends that were Black and brown to know that I like supported them and I saw them, but I didn't want to burden them, but I didn't want to, like, so it was like I got in my head a little bit at first, as far as like, how do I perform? Like, I felt like it almost became performative, just in the sense of like, I was in fear. It was like the fear pushing it, or other things, rather than just like, and it's not that the desire wasn't really there. It's just like that became kind of more of the push, which then caused it to be a struggle instead of just an uncomfortable experience.
Yeah, there was, but I completely get that, because there was pressures from all around, because there were folks, like, it maybe wasn't directly coming at us, but it was coming at us through social media, which sometimes is very powerful.
Yeah.
Where people are saying, well, why aren't you responding, or why aren't you reacting? And does it not affect you? And I completely understand. I don't want to shut down and be that person that just doesn't give a shit.
Right.
But
well, I learned that there's not any one, like, you can't please everybody.
Absolutely
and there's not
not.
any like I don't think that's the same approach for everyone. So like, I had a lot of people in my life that are of color. So each of them are going to respond differently. Some of them are going to want me to call them and say, hey, how are you doing? And others are not going to want me to do that. Some are going to want me to post things and go to marches, and others are not. So it's like, I think once I could, and for me, my spirituality, I really leaned on my spirituality and my recovery to really kind of like get through that in a way that I wasn't going crazy or wasn't overwhelmed too much. It was like, the idea is like, what would my higher power do? Or how can I focus on putting myself in the right space so that I can bring my best self to whatever's going on and try to respond in the best way that I can. But
absolutely. I think what really helped me is like, especially during that time, like, I kind of did everything on steroids, in the sense that I stepped up the consistency of my gratitude list, of my calling, meeting with my sponsor, meeting with sponsees, reaching out. I would reach out to people every now and then, try to stay in contact with my family as much, and just feel like I'm being productive.
Yeah.
And I think it helped, only so much. But
could you have imagined going through this last year without recovery?
Oh my God, it's like and I thought about that, because unfortunately, and I wrote this down, a lot of us, a lot of our fellows throughout this process relapsed. And like I had a sponsee at the beginning of the pandemic who made a conscious decision. He said, you know, I can't deal with this because we were meeting on FaceTime and everything. And he said, I just can't deal with this. And so he stepped away. And, you know, I always kind of wondered like how he fared, because I know after a long run or whatever, how miserable like I felt, and how, you know, it just compounded and things didn't get better. So it's like I can't imagine like going through that when you have this already tense situation experience, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I had tools with dealing with something that I'd never dealt with before. You know, that was the whole thing. Like we were dealing with a world and things that we had never really dealt with before all at once. And that can be really unsettling for me. And so, yeah, it was helpful to have recovery, but you know, some people just started recovery, you know, in shelter
I know
in place.
that's something we were thinking about when we thought about this topic. There are folks who have never experienced recovery in the sense like the fellowship, the meetings in person, and to do all of that on a screen. That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sponsee that I've never actually had a face-to-face, like a non-Zoom face-to-face meeting with. Like we're doing Monday, it will be like the first time we're getting together in person.
Wow.
Which is just wild.
It's like a hookup where it's like you guys are all hot and bothered until,
Right, it's like,
you meet in person. It's like, oh, the vibe's not there. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I need a new sponsor.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. You know, a lot of people have had, I guess, different experiences, but I think you and I were talking about this, but overall, it's been a really great experience for me.
Yeah, first off, like, so this is San Francisco we're in the Castro. Yes. And like, I think that one of the challenges we have is to find the silver lining in all experiences, and you can. And I feel like in some ways, this has been a soft reboot of San Francisco, because folks have moved out, and a lot of my friends or whatever who and others have had an opportunity to get into places where they wouldn't have before. And that's been kind of a joy to kind of experience, to be a part of, to be able to kind of appreciate that, but then to see other people kind of have that experience. And I'm like, woohoo. For me, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was suffering from a lot of financial insecurity. And as a result, I don't know what changed, because there was nothing new. I made same job, same money, whatever. Or maybe it was that I didn't have to spend a lot of money because I didn't have to go out. But I was able to kind of change my perspective on things. Like one of the things I struggled with was being a better steward of my money. And I say this all the time. And I realized, okay, you know, the biggest lesson I learned is like, you can't save money if you owe it to somebody else. And so I made it a point to just start paying. And then all of the different, I was grateful for the stimulus. I didn't necessarily need it, but I was going to take it. Right. And I used it. Instead of using it the way I probably would have used it in the past, to just for frivolous things, I really kind of focused in on making sure like bills were paid, and, you know, and reminded myself to be grateful that I had that job, and that no matter how annoyed I was that I had to go, I had the job. And there were some people who didn't have, you know, and so I was so grateful. That was the big thing. Gratitude. And, you know, just really kind of being appreciative that my higher power had set me up for this, you know?
Right. Yeah. I ended up being able, you know, I was spending a lot less money too. So I was actually able to save up a lot of money. And so I was actually able to quit my job and have enough money to live off of for at least 6 months.
Exactly.
You know,
And
so that I could make
and build your empire, huh? Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to do some sort of, queer ministry stuff, but it's been a little slow going, but it's been great.
Trying. And like, I'm sorry, but you're setting the tone.
Well, I'm definitely keeping busy.
It's like the Bonnie Violet Network.
Right. How funny.
Yeah, no. So a lot of folks like, great. No, we didn't talk at all about like how the election and how all of the politics and all of the back and forth and where we're affecting, because all of this stuff is like, I think that like it would be nice to very neatly compartmentalize everything, put it in a box and say, I don't want to talk about this because it doesn't have anything to do with recovery, but it does. It has absolutely everything. My self-esteem, all of those things were like shot. I think the trauma that we all experience with finding out the people that we loved or cared about were so, I don't want to say narrow-minded or ignorant, but blind to the fact that you can't, like, the issues. Like, I'm stumbling through this. Okay.
Yeah.
I found that I could not support folks who supported individuals who their ideology was so far off. Like, it was not a matter of just differences, just plain differences. It had come down to like issues of racism and just homophobia and all of those things. And it's like, it called into question. Right. It called into question. And I think this is something that I always deal with. It's like, you know what? It's like, how much of this nonsense am I going to put up with? Like, folks, you can believe what you want to believe, but the consequence of that is that there are going to be people who don't jive with you.
You can't do that.
Yeah. So it's like, and that's a tough one, but it's like, I think that a lot of us have experienced that.
Yeah. Well, and I think I became a lot more, like, I had to become really mindful about what it was I was consuming. Like, so how much news I could watch, and like, cause at first I would like check out the numbers, like every day I was like constantly checking out the numbers and like doing all that sort of stuff. And then eventually I just had to be like, okay, I got to check so that I'm at least like aware of what's going on, but I also like can't just like overwhelm myself with it. And then I also had to try to, for me, it was really important to try to listen to a lot of different points of view.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was really challenging to know what to believe. Everything seemed exaggerated or extreme.
Exactly.
And so it was just really, it was an interesting time for sure. Some people had referred to it as kind of like we were in kind of like a civil war in some degree.
Yeah.
As a country, just it was done electronically. It was like done on Facebook and Twitter and
oh my God,
it's stuff, like, right? Is that wild?
Yeah, no, I spent a lot of time unfollowing, unfriending, and really what I learned through this is I get to kind of shape, with respect to, like, I'm down for, I like diverse thought. I don't need everybody to think the way I do, but as soon as your argument becomes I'm fat, we're good.
Right,
we're good.
Names.
Yeah, you start calling me names because you don't like that I get to have an opinion. I think in an adult conversation, we validate that we get to think and believe the way we do.
Yeah.
We're open to different ideas. Yeah.
It's interesting though. I feel like sometimes though, people have opinions on things that you don't get to have an opinion on. Like,
oh, absolutely.
You don't get to have an opinion about me. Like, especially like I have a hard time around sexuality where people like, they get to tell, you know what I mean? Like they get to be like against, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, just because it's not for you, it's fine, but that doesn't mean you need to, like, I don't know. There's some things I feel like people have opinions of that I don't know.
And it's privilege. It's privilege when they dive in and feel like they need to educate you about their opinion. Nobody asked you, it's like, it's okay. Right. It's okay. You don't have to share. One of the things I didn't mention, it's like, okay, so in the beginning, we had all of these apps. What was the app? I'm going to look for it now. It's House Party. House Party was this app. It was like walkie-talkie kind of thing where you sign on. And so every morning I would have a ton of friends where you can go into a room with up to about 8 people. Mm-hmm. And there would be videos. You could see everybody. So it's like cool. An extreme like FaceTime. And we would get in there and some days we would be super silly. We'd check in, see how each other's doing. Other times we would have like really kind of deep, meaningful conversation. And I think that through this process, it's like, I feel like I've grown, mm-hmm. Physically and mentally.
Right.
Yeah. But I challenge myself to have conversations about things other than just like election, although we
Right.
talked about those things, spirituality, we talked about COVID, we talked about what things are going to be like when
And what a great opportunity to be able to talk with like eight people like that regularly about like shit that matters. Like,
absolutely,
that sounds
absolutely. And
cool.
we're super tight now.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about now that things are opening up?
Well, now that I'm vaccinated, I'm like, breathe a
Right.
sigh of relief. Like, and things are opening up and I'm feeling hopeful, although I'm still a little frustrated because some people are like, I'm not getting vaccinated because vaccines are,
Right.
and I wish that, I could make people understand, but I can't. I have to, I've done my part.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like people get to make their own decisions, but yeah, I have like it's been interesting. I know like some folks who are probably listening, you're probably impacted a lot differently than we are. Like San Francisco, the Bay Area was one of the first areas to really shut down and do the shelter in place. And I think we're probably one of the last ones kind of like letting go of it. And
Yeah.
so I know like other places like I've thought about traveling to like Idaho where I'm from or other places. I know like wearing a mask there would be like it'd be like not wearing a mask here, it'd be like just countercultural.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I think it is kind of maybe unique to us that we're just now going to this experience of being like super masked for everything to actually being able to eat indoors and potentially walk around without a mask on as long as we're not we're vaccinated and we're not, like there's all these little rules, but it's still kind of opening up a little bit more.
Yeah. I've been walking around with a mask around my, like this,
Right.
so that
I've still kept wearing it for some reason. I haven't really felt too inclined to not wear it when I'm walking for some reason, but I think that'll happen in time.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of time.
So like, I feel, yeah, no, exactly. It's like we're coming to an end, but I think that this conversation is not far from over because we're still in it. But I think that like I said, we're adaptable and we have come through. I mean, it's like from a time where we were really kind of directed by fear. I mean, it really helps that we have solid messaging now from one source, and it's not they're not fighting each other on what the message is. I mean, I think that would have probably made a world of difference had we had leadership that kind of gave it to us straight with no chaser. Literally, I'm a truck.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked in disease prevention for a long time, so I kind of knew you have to kind of filter a little bit.
Well, you do filter,
CDC is gonna,
but you filter, but the kind of misinformation and that was just
it was ugly. Just so political.
Yeah, it's just exactly it's politicizing completely.
Yeah, I mean, I lost a friend over masks.
I know. It's like and that's something when we talk about the like I think like with the pandemic, the number it was so unreal the number of people dying. It's just I mean it's like that was something that I think that we may not have yet even to deal with completely. Because it's like it's kind of like when during the Persian Gulf War or the Iraq War, where they would always talk about the numbers, the money. It was unreal. It's like Bush would go back and ask for another $50 gazillion, and I'm like, I don't understand.
Right. Anyway. Well, I had a lot of people in my life. Their parents were dying, or their spouses, or like it was real for a lot of people. Got really sick. But anyway, I'm feeling like we need to say goodbye.
Exactly, but we want to let you know that the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. And it's located, guess where, in the heart of Castro District of San Francisco. We endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And to find more information, go to www.castrocountryclub.org.
www. That's so old school.
I know, exactly. I'm old school.
Right. And tune in every Tuesday. We're live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. At the Castro Country Club Facebook or the YouTube channel. We'd love to have you join us live and join the conversation.
Absolutely. And look for us at CCC wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. So we usually upload our next episode within a couple of days. So, subscribe and follow us on the podcast. And it's a really great way to listen, especially like if you happen to pop in last week, we had some sound issues in the beginning. So I know that was really uncomfortable for some folks, but if you go to the podcast, the audio is all really good. So feel free to like check it out there if you want to kind of hear what we did last week. And
absolutely. And then we have, you can leave us a voicemail on our SpeakPipe link in the description below if you want to, if there are specific topics that you want to hear. And we always encourage you to kind of ask your questions while you participate, even if you go to our YouTube page
and just comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you could email us if you prefer to connect with us that way at podcast@castrocountryclub.org.
Exactly. And so next week we are going to be talking about sex in recovery.
Yes. And we're going to have a guest.
Yes, exactly.
Who's our guest?
Juan G. He's like Juan G. Yeah. It'll be a mystery.
Right. It sounds like one word. Juan G.
So for us and DJ Wasabi Nuts.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we will see you next week.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We did that.